What's up, everybody? I am not a software engineer, but I did have the bright idea to start collecting Pokemon cards about a year ago because I decided that I hated money. And as you can see, at a cost of $13.10 per pack, the set that I am currently interested in is quite basically unapproachable. As I like to build things that, I don't know, make my life a little bit easier or make me not have to spend $13.10 per pack to open Prismatic Evolutions, I have built my own Prismatic Evolutions opening simulator, and we're going to talk about that here. So, what you're seeing right now is a built Unity project that basically has the logic for the pull rates that I understand them to be for Prismatic Evolutions. And if I click this pack, it will basically show me what my pulls would be. So that would have cost me $13.10 in real life, but since I didn't want to do that, you basically saw what happened there. So we can go through and we can get my 1, 2, 3, 4 commons, my 1, 2, 3 uncommons, my first potential rare, which might have a Pokeball, but in this case has a reverse holo. My second potential roll of a rare, which would potentially be the secret illustration rare, but as you can see, it's just another reverse holo. And then I have my rare slash double rare slot, and then my energy here. So that was actually pretty trash. So I'm going to go ahead and click it again. So this is another $13.10. Luckily, I didn't actually pay $13.10 for it, although I did get this nice Duskull Pokeball here. So just to kind of drive this home, since I do have a pretty good grasp on the pull rates based on some open source data and all that stuff, I can kind of go through and just rip a bunch of packs to see if we end up getting anything good. And I'm going to talk about basically the entire process for building this here shortly. But if you're just here to kind of see what a Prismatic Evolutions opening simulator looks like with realistic pull rates, then just watch for the next, I don't know, 30 seconds or so. And there you go, an A spec. So this is actually the first somewhat interesting card. So the rarity on this, from what I understand, is 1 in 30. All right, so I guess this counts as our first secret illustration rare, which is insane because I've opened like 200 packs. So as you can see, if you just get unlucky with this pull rate, you could basically spend thousands of dollars before even getting a single SIR. In this case, I imagine if I open 200 packs, yeah, about $2,000 in, which is absolutely insane. So now I'm going to actually talk about my Unity project and kind of where I got the data that I used. And kind of one of the first things is this pull rate data here. So that kind of shows our full art trainers are at 1 in 16, Master Balls 1 in 19, A-Spec 1 in 29, SIR is 1 in 53, and the Hyper Rare at 1 in 152. So basically, I kind of rounded these a little bit. I made the full art trainers 1 in 15, Master Ball's 1 in 20, A-Spec's 1 in 30, SIR's 1 in 50, which is absolutely insane that it took us that long to get one in the basically the session that I just went through. I think I had to have hit maybe 200 packs opened or something like that. But yeah, 1 in 50 technically is the pull right there, and then 1 in 150 on the hyper rare gold, which I actually pulled like 3 or 4 of, which is absolutely insane. Anyway, that just goes to show you how variance can be pretty crazy. So here's what I based my pull rate data off of. I've actually heard that it's harder to pull an SIR, but I went with 1 in 50 because otherwise going through the video demonstration of the simulator would be very painful, and I'm going to have to speed that up anyway because it took a while. But yeah, so kind of the first pass of this was starting a brand new Unity project, which of course you're greeted with basically, you know, a skybox, right? And so I realized that I needed to create a card mesh. So I did that in Blender, very simple mesh here. I'm not an expert at Blender by any means necessary, but I was kind of able to create, you know, a flattened cube that I turned into a rectangle and then sort of smoothed out the edges here like a card would have, and then basically set it so there's a front material and a back material, one for each face here. And then I just exported it, right? I exported it as an FBX file, which you can then open in Unity. And so that is what I did here. And I saved that. And if you're not familiar with Unity, I mean, this is not going to be like a super in-depth tutorial, but I am going to give you kind of the overview here. I went ahead and created a card prefab, which I'm just going to drag into my scene right now. And then I applied kind of the back texture there and the front texture here. But the front texture obviously is going to change based on what we roll. So there's a series of scripts that I have attached to my card prefab. And you can see those in the inspector here. Basically, I could probably delete this spin card because it doesn't apply, but so I had my unique texture script, which basically takes in the materials that we care about, right? So one, um, actually, an interesting note is that I use the same image. So if this was a Pokeball, I would basically use this texture and then apply a texture on top of it as well. That's kind of why the reverse looks a little strange because I didn't do it like perfectly, but it at least gives you an idea on what those would be. So yeah, you might be wondering, okay, well, where'd you get all the textures? And that would be a great question because that was kind of the next part of this, right? And I actually found this site, justinbasil.com, and it basically had nice PNG images of every single image or every single card in the set, rather, but it didn't differentiate between Pokeball, Master Ball, and Reverse Hollows. So I kind of had to do that myself with shaders, and we'll talk about that here momentarily. But by and large, I just downloaded every single one of these images and then saved them in my Unity project. So if we go into our resources and then our textures directory, you can actually see all of these. And there's a bit of redundancy here. I think I could actually remove all these. I'm not going to touch it right now for the sake of the demo, but I basically put them in their rarity folder. So I got all my A specs here, and then I got all my commons here, so on and so forth, all the way through. And then basically what I do is when I generate my pack, and I'll remove this from the scene, but when I generate my pack and click on it, well, actually at this point in time, basically what it does is it does my rarity logic and it goes through and loads textures from these directories and applies them directly to the card. And then of course you can click on it and it sends them into place with a nice little animation and lets me mouse over to zoom. So this right here, this execute reverse hollow, and again, forgive me for the reverse shader not being great. I'm not very good at shaders, to be honest, and there was some vibe coding involved. But yeah, so long story short, this is actually just the original common execute texture that has another texture applied on top of it to kind of somewhat resemble the reverse hollows. And same thing with this. This is actually just the Slow King with the reverse on it. But yeah, so what I wanted to do next is kind of talk about some of the logic that I used here, and we can bring up Cursor, of course. And so this is just Cursor that is using Sonnet, and a lot of this was done courtesy of, me just basically vibe coding along. But yeah, so basically what we do is we have a card prefab that I just showed you, and what happens is has a single method which allows it to slide to the position that it goes, and there's also one that basically throws the card from the pack to where it goes and slide to position. Nothing too crazy going on there, but it does take in. There are two booleans basically that determine if I am going to generate a Pokeball texture or a Master Ball texture. Otherwise, it would just be whatever directory that I basically generate at the time of the roll. So we'll get to that here momentarily. My generate cards. This one is basically where I don't do the rolls here. I do the rolls and the texture, but actually that's a lie. I do two of the rolls here, the Pokeball and the Master Ball. So basically, knowing that the Master Ball chance is 1 in 20, right? We basically just say, okay, between 0 and 19, give me a number. If that number happens to be 0, then we're going to consider the fact that we're going to basically just declare rolled Master Ball to be true, and then we'll basically create that texture with the Master Ball overlay on it. Same thing goes for the Pokeball, although the odds of this happening in the first rare slot are much higher, being 1 in 3, right? So our random range is going to be 0, 1, and 2, and then if we get a 0, that would be 1 and 3, then we'll consider that to be true. Another thing I haven't really mentioned thus far is the actual pack, which is just a quad. Nothing going on that's too crazy here, but there is There is an animation of, basically the pack tearing, and it's a very short animation. I believe I can go to the prefab here and, go to the quad, and I can probably increase this to, like, I don't know, 5 just to demonstrate. But if I set that to 5, you can see that it goes a lot slower. Let's slow it down even more to, like, 15. Um, yeah, so it basically uses, 2 textures, and there's a shader that kind of slides from one to the next, and that one was a little interesting. And I'll show you what that looks like actually. We can go into the directory, and I believe that is in resources. If I go into sprites and then I see the different animations here by going to extra large icons, you can see that I have kind of this mask here, and it goes from this to this using the mask. And I believe it's this one that I actually used. But it does that little animation. And if I wanted to get crazy with it, and I kind of started to do this, but then I just kind of called this project done. But I could have done multiple direction tear by creating masks and basically extending this animation out, but I did not get to that point. So yeah, going back to the card, basically when the game starts, I create my pack here, and then it looks to see if there's already a pack, and if not, then it spawns one. So that's basically what causes it to spawn at the beginning of the game. So really all the fun stuff happens, I did mention the shaders, this is all vibe coded. I'm a horrible shader programmer, so basically all this was like, "Hey, I need a shader to do X," and then just kind of went through with that, and it worked well enough. There's some troubleshooting, and there's some gotchas too, like, you need to actually create materials, based on the shaders, so if you can see my shaders are here, right? These are all vibe coded for sure. But then when I go into materials and actually create a material, you need to, like, add for example, I made my master ball one, which takes in just a basic texture, which I believe I had is my front material right here. So this takes in just front material as your base texture, and then the overlay is going to be whichever one we're doing, right? So if we're doing a master ball, if we roll a master ball, we need that master ball overlay. Just to show you what that looks like in Photoshop, it's just this right here, which I kinda did this by hand, based on the Pokeball, so it's not actually a great representation of a Master Ball, but it's close enough, right? We can tell what it is. Same with the Pokeball, and then this is just a mess for the reverse hollow, but if you've actually looked at the reverse hollows, they're bizarre looking, they have eyeballs everywhere, so I'm not a, like, great artist or anything like that, but this got close enough, for the purpose of this project, so yeah, so I do the same thing for the Pokeball. I got my overlay texture there, and the reverse material, I got my overlay texture there as well. And that kind of goes over the materials. But yeah, back to the code. Once we get to the fun stuff, that's kind of all in unique texture, right? And that goes back to our probabilities. We'll just kind of go back to the screenshot. Again, I kind of rounded these. I didn't want like 1 out of 16, 1 out of 19, 1 out of 29. It wouldn't have mattered. But basically that's what we do here in this apply random texture, right? So we get our materials that I just went over in the inspector just a second ago. Those are all available to us here. And then basically we get the actual card because we're going to run this for every single card that's in the pack, right? And then basically we do our roll here. So in the case of 4, 5, or 6, um, that is going to be an uncommon, so that means we need to kind of refer to the default, which is indices 0 through 3, right? So our default is gonna be textures/common, and if we go to the textures/common directory, we'll see basically what all those cards would be, and they're, the cards that you would expect to be. So our commons are gonna be comprised of textures that are in this directory. And then once we do those for indices 0 through 3, we're going to go 4, 5, 6, and then we're going to get our textures uncommon. And that, of course, is going to be in the uncommon directory. And there, of course, the textures that you would expect. So on and so forth to when we get to the actual defined rarities, which are going to cause us to call a Pokeball or reverse function for the first rare slot, right? So we'll go ahead and take a look at that function or method here. Rather, I'm kind of used to Python nomenclature, but in any case, we'll go down to the where is that? Pokeball or reverse. Yeah, so we're going to call this, right, and that is just going to return a string, which is going to be the directory that we use. So we're going to have a range of 0 through 7. This is kinda arbitrary, so that would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's a total of 7 options, right? And so the first one, if we roll a 0 here, we'll get a rare. 1, 2, or 3 will get an uncommon, and then 4, 5, and 6 will get a common. So, um, there is a slight, and I actually kind of made up this rarity. I don't know what the Pokeball, like, delineation, like, once you roll a Pokeball, I don't know what the odds of you getting a rare versus an uncommon versus a common Pokeball are, or if they're just like, there are 100 Pokeballs, period, we're just gonna pull a random Pokeball. So I didn't actually, like, know what this was, so I just kinda, I just kinda made up what I thought was somewhat logical. So this could be incorrect, but again, for the purposes of this project, it was kinda whatever. So we go ahead and we determine if we got our Pokeball, and if so, what kind of Pokeball here, and that gives us our texture directory. And this, of course, is the interesting one, which is the secret illustration rare chance, or the main rare. I guess the rarest card technically goes in this slot, which is case 8, or the ninth card in the pack. So basically, we want to figure out if it's a Master Ball. So I can just look at the card for that Boolean that we talked about earlier to see if it's a Master Ball. Um, if it is not a Master Ball, then we're going to go ahead and do our rarest roll, which is down here under Pokeball or Reverse. So this basically does a rare roll of a range between the indices of 0 and 1, well, the number, integers between 0 and 149, right? Because 150 is not actually part of the roll. So that is a total of 150 options in our case 0, meaning if we roll a 0, then we're going to get our hyper rare. And those are the gold cards. So right here, that's basically saying you have a 1 in 150 chance of getting a gold card. So then we're going to go to our, I think this actually does not need to be here because it's covered here. So I'm going to delete that and hope that things still work. But yeah, so we're going to have our default case, is basically going to be comprised of some if else blocks, right? So we want our default to be, and I could have just done this manually, but I'm not the biggest fan of this whole case thing because I would have to do like one line per item that has a case. So instead, I just did ranges. But yeah, so this could be incorrect, to be honest. But anyway, basically, I'm looking to see if my rare roll is greater than or equal to 1, and it is less than 4, so that would basically give me the options of 1, 2, and 3, and if so, that's 3 out of 150, or a 1 in 50 chance to have my secret illustration rare. So if I wanted this to be a 1 in 75 chance, which I've actually heard that it's more like 1 in 75, I could just get rid of this equal sign, but that would again be like a much less entertaining demonstration because I'd get even fewer secret illustration rares. So I'm going to leave that equal sign there. We're going to go through and I'm going to go ahead and see the next, which is the A spec. So the range here is going to be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That gives me, I can't remember, I think it's 1 in 30. And then we're gonna go to this one is 10 out of 150, so 1 in 15. UR and I mean, I could probably put a note here that says like trainer because for whatever reason I put this as UR, but I think it's actually the trainers, right? So that's 1 in 15, and then we're going to go to the next, which is just going to be a rare, and I think there's a pretty significant chance that you get a rare here, and that, of course, would be made into a reverse hollow. And the rest are just going to be uncommons, which again will also be a reverse hollow. So that kind of goes over the math there. It's not 100% accurate to what you get, but I think it's close enough that we can kind of move on. And let's double check that this still works after modifying the code. Oh yeah, I need to set that prefab back to, what is it, 2? Duration of 2. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and set this back and make sure that everything is still working. It looks like it is, which means that we're just going to get a bunch of reverse hollows in the rare slots. And oh yeah, I didn't talk about my rare slash double rare. So this last slot can be the textured EX cards as well, which are double rares. Otherwise, they're just going to be a rare denoted by the single star there. Interesting that I got 2 Espeons in a row. Let's see if I get 3. If so, there's probably a bug. Okay, I didn't. So yeah, I can just kind of keep on clicking. Oh yeah, dang, I got a double rare there and just skipped it. Oh well. Yeah, so I think we're at a state where the demonstration of the Unity project is probably sufficiently discussed. And I wanted to talk about one other thing, and that's actually simulating how much it would cost to pull all 463 unique cards in Prismatic Evolutions. So instead of doing that in C sharp, I mean, I could have built in like some counter, right? I could have counted the number of packs rather than tying the actual simulation to animations that would, take a lot longer if I had to rip thousands of packs. Would also make the Unity project much more complicated. I kind of decided to just go through and simulate this in Python. So that's kind of what the last part of this video is going to be. I'm just going to demonstrate what it looks like. So I'm basically running a card pack generation, very similar to what you saw in the Unity project, and then I am ripping packs until I get 463 unique cards, and in that case, we have considered and of course, I have the rarity built in as well, but in that case, we have, a master set, right? And so I then take the number of packs it took to get all of those cards in our pools, and then I calculate, based on today's price, which actually went down I think 3 cents since I wrote the code here. So I'm gonna go ahead. I mean, we're trending downwards. This is much more reasonable. Instead of 13.13, it's now 13.10 per pack. So this should be a little tiny bit cheaper, but I was just gonna go ahead and run this before I discuss the code. And that is just gonna be called prismatic simulation.py. And basically it goes through and it rips a master set over and over and over again, the number of times that I've specified it to, which in this case is 100 times. And you might be noticing but this is a very, very expensive endeavor, that is close to $100,000, if not more, per attempt, right? So that's why I'm doing 100 of these, and then I'm going to take an average, see what the average cost is. It comes in at just under $100,000 to organically rip a master set of Prismatic Evolutions at market price. So, if there's anything that you take away from this video after me rambling for dozens of minutes, it's that you should probably just buy singles if you want to complete a master set of Prismatic Evolutions. And if you're especially unlucky, you're going to spend $171,000 ripping 13,000 packs to get a master set. And if you're very lucky, at the absolute best case scenario that you pay $13.10 per pack, the best case scenario is that you only spend $59,984.90 ripping 4,579 packs to get a master set organically. So, yeah, I'm going to talk about the Python script just for a second here. It's pretty similar to what you saw in the Unity logic. So, yeah, what I did is I basically found the exact numbers of each type of card, and then I created a list that does not actually have their corresponding Pokedex number or anything like that. It just has a number, basically one through the total number, right? So in the event of ace specs, there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the ace spec list. The same is going to be said for all of these, right? So the seer list will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth. And basically what I need to do is pull a random choice from that when I generate a card. And once I do, then I'm going to keep track of them in my pools for the corresponding list. So what's going to happen is when I'm trying to get 1, 2, 3, 4 through 32 on the seer list, you will kind of notice inevitably that I will pull duplicate seers, right? Secret illustration rares. And I was unfamiliar with this, but this is actually something that is called, there's actually something called what is it? The coupon collector problem. And this is all new information to me that I got via ChatGPT. So shout out to ChatGPT for showing me this equation here, and I was unaware completely of this, what is it, the Euler-Mascheroni constant? I had no idea what that was, but it's kinda neat. It's actually this number here. So basically we can get in the event of the secret illustration rares, right, we get, 32 is the number there plus this constant, and then we kind of get this 4.0242 or 4.042, which we then multiply times the number of rares, and that means the average, rares that we need to pull to get all 32 is this 129.34. So you're gonna get a lot of dupes, when going through this process, right? Which, it could, let's say you get, I don't know, 50 Umbreons, then obviously you could sell them on the secondary market and maybe make some money back when building your master set. But of course, you could also get the worst secret illustration rare 50 times as well, which would be quite painful. But yeah, going back to the Python script, basically what I do is I roll my Pokeball. I have a function to roll the Pokeball and the Master Ball. Again, these are kind of the 1 in 3, the 1 in 20. We've already been over this. I have some notes to basically go through the different card rarities. I've created a pack class, and in the init function, I basically do my rolls, Pokeball, Master Ball. I then get my 4 common cards, my 3 uncommon cards, my first rare, the rarest card, the last rare, and then my energy. The only thing that kind of deviates from what you saw in the Unity project is, I think where is it? I think the reverse hollows. I remember that thing where I basically was like, okay, my reverse hollows have a chance of being rare versus a common versus an uncommon. I didn't do that. I just said, okay, there's 100 reverse hollows, the same number of Pokeballs that there are. And I believe I have a reference for this somewhere. Let's see if I'm actually oh yeah, right here. So the number of the number of reverse hollows is the same as the number of Pokeballs, which is 100. And I think if we go up here and see that in my list, yeah, so reverse and Pokeballs are both 100. So I didn't have any rarity within the reverses at all. But I do not think that that changes the outcome of the simulation, and the reason is I think ultimately, it's the secret illustration rares that make this take so long, and when we get down to basically where I determine when a master set has been pulled. You can kind of get the same data by simply checking to see if you've pulled all of the secret illustration rares, right? So that gets down to our check. So for iron range number of runs, so I demonstrated 100 runs, right? So I'm going to collect 100 master sets and I'm going to basically calculate how much that particular master set cost. And then I average it out at the end. So in order to determine to demonstrate how I determine that we have pulled a master set, what I do is I keep track of all the pulls, right? So for example, I pull an SIR. We'll just say the number associated with that is 1. Keep in mind that I have the 1, 2, 3, 4, for my actual SIR list. So if I pull a 1, I add it to my Seer pulls list, and then what I do is I basically I keep ripping packs over and over and over again until I take a set of my SIR pools. So my SIR pools is going to look something like this. It's going to have duplicates. When I turn that into a set, it is going to only get the unique values. And then when I take the length of that set and compare it to the length of the SIR list, once they are the same, that means that I pulled every single SIR list. So I basically do that in this giant if statement where this has to be true for every single card type. And yeah, it's kind of a ridiculous if statement, but it is the one that makes the most sense to do, even though I'm pretty sure I get very similar results if I simply looked at when I hit all SIRs pulled and compared that to my SIR list. But yeah, that is the Python script. Nothing too crazy. It does have, like I said, pretty similar pull rates coded into it as the Unity project. So yeah, at this point, I'll go ahead and send you off with me ripping a few more packs in my simulator. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.